A client ate raw garlic every day for prostate health, 2 cloves daily, crushed into salads or mixed with olive oil. He'd read that garlic has anti-cancer properties, allicin, sulfur compounds, immune support. Nature's antibiotic, the article said. After 14 months of daily raw garlic, his PSA 8.9, up from 7.8, 1.1 increase, despite 14 months of what he thought was protective eating. His urologist reviewed his diet during the appointment. Any changes in the last year? I started eating raw garlic daily for prostate health. The urologist paused. That might be contributing to your PSA elevation. My client was shocked. But garlic is supposed to be good for you. Garlic has health benefits, the urologist explained. But for some men with prostate issues, the sulfur compounds can be irritating, especially raw garlic. The urologist showed him research on garlic and bladder irritation. Garlic contains allicin and other organosulfur compounds. In some people, these compounds irritate the bladder and urinary tract. The irritation creates localized inflammation. Inflammation can affect the prostate due to anatomical proximity. Chronic irritation keeps PSA elevated. A study on bladder irritants listed garlic, particularly raw garlic, as a common trigger. Another study found that men with interstitial cystitis or chronic pelvic pain often react to allium vegetables. Garlic, onions, leeks, shallots, the entire allium family. My client had been eating the most potent form, raw garlic daily, for over a year. The urologist suggested eliminating garlic completely for 3 months, then reintroducing cooked garlic in small amounts to test tolerance. But how do I get the anti-inflammatory benefits I was seeking? My client asked. Try ginger instead, the urologist said. Similar anti-inflammatory properties, but without the sulfur compounds that irritate. My client stopped raw garlic immediately, started using fresh ginger instead, grated into stir-fries, teas, and salad dressings. 3 months later, PSA 8.3, down 0.6 from 8.9. 6 months, PSA 7.9, down 1 full point. 9 months, PSA 7.5, down 1.4 total, below his starting level before garlic. I was eating garlic thinking I was preventing problems, he told me later, but I was creating inflammation instead. Through working with clients, I've identified 3 aromatic vegetables that can raise PSA in sensitive men, all from the allium family, all commonly eaten for health benefits, but all potentially irritating to the bladder and prostate in certain individuals. Today, I'm revealing which 3 aromatics to avoid, why sulfur compounds cause problems for some men, the research on bladder irritants and prostate inflammation, and the alternative aromatics that provide flavor and health benefits without irritation. If you're eating garlic, onions, or other alliums daily and your PSA isn't improving, type aromatics in the comments, and I'll send you the complete aromatic swap guide with alternatives for every cooking situation. This is educational information based on research and clinical observation, not medical advice. Client names and details have been changed to protect privacy while maintaining accuracy of dietary patterns observed. Individual sensitivity to foods varies significantly. Some men tolerate alliums without issues. Work with your healthcare provider on dietary decisions. Let me show you the 3 aromatics that may be affecting your PSA. Aromatic number 1, raw garlic, the strongest irritant. This is what my client was eating, and it's the most potent bladder and urinary tract irritant in the allium family. Raw garlic contains the highest concentration of allicin and organosulfur compounds. When you crush or chop raw garlic, an enzyme called alliinase converts alliin to allicin. Allicin is what gives garlic its sharp smell and taste. It's also what research identifies as the primary irritant. Studies on bladder irritants consistently list raw garlic. The Interstitial Cystitis Association includes garlic on their list of foods that commonly trigger bladder pain and urgency. For men, bladder irritation doesn't stay isolated to the bladder. The prostate surrounds the urethra. It's anatomically adjacent to the bladder. Inflammation in one area affects the other. Research shows that chronic bladder irritation can contribute to prostatitis symptoms. And prostatitis, Inflammation of the prostate elevates PSA. Beyond bladder irritation, there's another mechanism. Some research suggests that sulfur compounds from garlic can be excreted through the urinary tract. As these compounds pass through, they may irritate sensitive tissue. For men with existing prostate inflammation, this creates additional inflammatory stimulus. Not everyone reacts to garlic. Many men eat it without problems, but for those who are sensitive and sensitivity can develop over time, raw garlic creates persistent low-grade inflammation. The key word, raw. Cooked garlic has significantly lower allicin content. Heat deactivates the alliinase enzyme. Less allicin means less irritation potential. Some men who react to raw garlic tolerate small amounts of cooked garlic, but even cooked garlic can be problematic for highly sensitive individuals. My client eliminated all garlic, raw and cooked, for 3 months. His PSA dropped 0.6 in that time. After 3 months, he tested cooked garlic. 1 clove, thoroughly cooked in a stir fry. His PSA didn't spike. He now uses small amounts of cooked garlic occasionally, but never raw and never daily. The alternative he uses most, fresh ginger. Ginger provides sharp, aromatic flavor, anti-inflammatory properties documented in research, supports digestive health, no sulfur compounds that irritate the bladder. He grates fresh ginger into stir-fries, soups, teas, and salad dressings, gets the flavor complexity he was seeking from garlic without the inflammatory response. Aromatic number 2, raw onions, FODMAP and sulfur double problem. Onions create issues through 2 mechanisms. First, FODMAPs, fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols. Onions are extremely high in fructans, a type of FODMAP. FODMAPs are carbohydrates that some people can't digest properly. When FODMAPs aren't digested in the small intestine, they pass to the large intestine. There, gut bacteria ferment them. Fermentation produces gas and inflammatory byproducts. For people with FODMAP sensitivity, this creates bloating, discomfort, and systemic inflammation. Research on inflammatory bowel conditions shows that FODMAP fermentation increases inflammatory markers in the bloodstream. For men, systemic inflammation can affect the prostate. Chronic inflammation from FODMAP-rich foods keeps PSA elevated. The second mechanism, sulfur compounds. Like garlic, onions contain organosulfur compounds. Not as concentrated as garlic, but still significant. These compounds can irritate the bladder and urinary tract in sensitive individuals. A client who ate raw onions on salads daily experienced this. His PSA was 8.7. Stuck at that level for 18 months. He eliminated raw onions as part of a low FODMAP trial. 30 days later, PSA 8.3, down 0.4. He reintroduced onions after 60 days to test. Within 1 week, his PSA jumped to 8.5, up 0.2. The pattern was clear. For him, onions triggered PSA elevation. He eliminated them permanently, uses fennel instead for sweet aromatic flavor. Fennel is low FODMAP, provides a mild licorice-like taste that works well in salads and cooked dishes. No sulfur compounds. No fermentation issues. His PSA continued to improve without onions. 6 months. PSA 7.9, down 0.8 from his peak. Note about cooked onions. Cooking reduces FODMAP content slightly. Some people tolerate small amounts of well-cooked onions, but raw onions are the most problematic, and highly sensitive individuals react to both. Aromatic number 3, leeks, shallots, and other alliums. Cross-reactivity. The third category includes all other allium vegetables. Leeks, shallots, scallions, chives, even garlic, scapes, and ramps. The entire botanical family. Why include all of them? Cross-reactivity. When someone is sensitive to one member of a plant family, they often react to others. The proteins and chemical compounds are structurally similar across the family. The immune and inflammatory responses generalize. A client eliminated garlic and onions successfully. His PSA dropped from 8.6 to 8.1. 0.5 improvement, but then it plateaued. Stayed at 8.1 for 4 months. I reviewed his food diary, found he was eating leeks 3 to 4 times weekly. Leeks are milder than onions, he said. I thought they were safe, but leeks are alliums. They contain similar sulfur compounds. Lower concentration than garlic or onions, but present. I suggested eliminating all alliums, including leeks. 2 months later, PSA 7.8, down 0.3 from the plateau. 4 months, PSA 7.5, down 0.6. The leeks had been maintaining low-level inflammation, not enough to spike his PSA dramatically, but enough to prevent further improvement. This pattern appears repeatedly. Men sensitive to garlic often react to onions. Men sensitive to both often react to leeks and shallots. The safest approach? Eliminate the entire allium family during testing. If PSA improves, you know alliums were contributing. You can then test individual alliums to see which you tolerate. Some men find they can handle small amounts of cooked leeks, but not raw garlic. Others react to the entire family. Individual testing reveals your specific sensitivity pattern. Alternatives for all allium functions: for sharp flavor, fresh ginger; black pepper, for sweet aromatic; fennel, celery, for savory depth; mushrooms, miso paste; for complexity, fresh herbs like basil, cilantro, thyme; for umami, tamari, nutritional yeast. These provide flavor without sulfur compounds or FODMAPs. The entire allium family. Now you know the 3 problematic aromatics. Here's how to eliminate them and what to use instead. Eliminate for 30 days. All garlic, raw, cooked, powdered. All onions, raw, cooked, dried, powdered. All leeks, shallots, scallions, chives. Check ingredient lists on packaged foods. Garlic powder and onion powder hide in seasoning blends, broths, sauces, and marinades. Restaurants use alliums in almost everything. Ask specifically, does this contain garlic, onions, or any allium vegetables? Request plain preparation with just salt, pepper, and herbs. Use these alternatives. Ginger, grate fresh into stir-fries, soups, teas, dressings. Fennel, slice bulb thin for salads, roast for sweet flavor. Celery, dice for aromatic base in soups and stews. Fresh herbs, basil, cilantro, parsley, thyme for complexity. Lemongrass, slice thin for aromatic depth in Asian dishes. Black pepper, provides sharpness. Turmeric, anti-inflammatory, earthy flavor. Track your PSA. Test before elimination. Test after 30 days. Test after 60 days. If PSA improves, alliums were likely contributing to inflammation. If PSA doesn't change, alliums probably aren't your issue. Reintroduction testing, if PSA improved. After 90 days allium-free, test 1 allium type. Start with cooked garlic. Smallest amount, well cooked. Eat for 3 days. Test PSA 2 weeks later. If PSA spikes, you're sensitive to that form. If stable, you may tolerate small amounts of cooked garlic. Test each allium separately. Cooked onions, cooked leeks. This reveals your individual sensitivity pattern. Before concluding, it's important to emphasize that allium vegetables have documented health benefits for many people. Research shows cardiovascular benefits, immune support, and anti-cancer properties. The Mediterranean diet, which includes garlic and onions, is associated with longevity and reduced disease risk. These foods aren't inherently bad, but for men with bladder sensitivity, FODMAP intolerance, or prostate inflammation, the sulfur compounds in fermentable carbohydrates can create more inflammation than benefit. Individual sensitivity varies significantly. Many men eat alliums without problems. These recommendations apply to those who are sensitive or who haven't achieved PSA improvement despite other dietary changes. The goal is identifying your individual triggers, not eliminating foods that work for you. My client ate raw garlic daily for 14 months. His PSA went from 7.8 to 8.9, 1.1 increase from what he thought was protective eating. The sulfur compounds in raw garlic were irritating his bladder and prostate, creating chronic inflammation, keeping PSA elevated. When he eliminated garlic and switched to ginger, his PSA dropped 1.4 in 9 months, below his starting level. The 3 aromatics to avoid if you're sensitive: raw garlic, highest allicin and sulfur compounds; raw onions, FODMAPs plus sulfur irritation; leeks and other alliums; cross-reactivity in sensitive individuals. Eliminate all 3 for 30 days. Use ginger, fennel, celery, and fresh herbs instead. Track your PSA. If it improves, you've identified a major trigger. If not, alliums aren't your problem. Comment Aromatics below and I'll send you the complete guide, allium-free cooking techniques, aromatic substitutions for every dish, restaurant ordering strategies, and the 30-day elimination tracking sheet. Subscribe because next video I'm revealing the 5 cooking methods that create inflammation, even with healthy ingredients.